tinfoil hat, all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mackie.
Thank you, Nighthawk, and welcome to
Dave.
That's him and Mackie's Shiny Side Out on WZZR. Coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. Today is show number 640. I didn't think we'd make it past 100, but now we're well on the way to 1,000. That's pretty cool. You can catch us on the air, on the line all the time, and on your smart device, if you have one. So grab an app to listen anywhere, or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. That's pretty cool stuff. If you missed Solaris' show, that's okay. That's okay, because you can catch her in the archives, which, incidentally, are completely free. And her guests today were Lorian Fenton, Bill Grant, and Zoe Greystone, and they were having a round table. I will definitely catch that because I was outside today. It was a bit sunny. But yeah, so never fear. Solaris' show will be up on the archives, if not already, but pretty soon. Right? So you can catch her there. And you must catch her because she really does do a great job. And I love listening to her and her guests. Hey, you know what's important? The station is important because that's the platform. Right, that's the platform. We're all on Solaris, ourselves, others, Jura, so many people call this platform their home, the platform that Nighthawk created. And please, if you can, donate it. Donate to it. Donate cash, right? You can donate Bitcoin, any kind of cryptocurrency, really, actually. Or if you can't, and that's okay too, because times are tough, please tell people about the station and maybe they can donate as well, or on your behalf. Pay it forward. I say pay it forward. Now, before we start broadcasting at you in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast here in Australia. Dave?
And that's most certainly the Darkinger.
Thank you, sir. And for myself, of course, the Dark people. And we'd like to pay our respects to elders, past, present, and future. Thank you very much. And my voice sounds a bit raspy because it is a bit raspy. This morning I was spitting some blood, which is not
you get
that
that.
you should do too often. It's not something I recommend. Excuse me, but I don't have a cough button. So what? The button and you cough?
Yes, it makes me cough.
It makes you. That's a common misconception. No, but. I don't know if I'm catching something, coming down with something, or some such. Yesterday, I took my family to a bit of a lunch, went to a Korean place, really nice food, but sort of behind us, 2 or 3 meters away. It's a family, and the 2 kids, they were hacking their lungs out. Which is always something that you want to see. But I was sitting, sort of blocking them from the rest of my family, so I hope that they won't
in the open air. Yeah, that'll help.
Well, no, we're inside. It was inside. It's actually either way, it's all good. I created a force field. And that's my story. I'm sticking with it. I tell you what, though, Dave, you had a bit of a race today, did you? Why don't you just quickly tell us before I tell you why I'm so angry today?
Oh, okay. Well, the light in the mood before the strength of the argument comes. I did a Watkins Glen GT3 Enduro 6-hour race. There was meant to be 3 of us. There was only 2, and that means I had to do a 3-hour stint, broken up. But it rained, 100% rain, through my second drive, and it was absolutely sketchy AF, and it was very, very tough to drive. I know I understeered a lot, and aquaplaned and did a whole bunch of stuff in the wet, but my dry driving was totally solid, and I should be better at the wet driving. I think that's really it. The race is still on, and it won't finish for another 20 minutes, 30 minutes, so we'll look to see where we placed. But out of the 43 teams that competed in our race, about 17 of them had already quit. Just quit entirely. Wow. Not even bothered to finish it. So we're going to finish the race, and hopefully we'll probably be around 20th place. I think we started 16th. They got us to qualified 16th. So, losing 4 places in all of that carnage is actually pretty good compared to the rest of them. And of course, huge stack on lap 1, where everyone tries to win a 6-hour enduro race in the first lap on cold tyres.
It's like the guy. There's this race in Sydney. It's a city to surf. It starts, I think, in North Sydney, but then you go across the Harbour Bridge. So you sort of start on the Harbour Bridge. And every year, this is a 14-kilometer race, right? And it's uphill for most of the way. But every year, there's a guy that sprints across the bridge. Because you all know that a 14-kilometer race is won by the guy that sprints for the first 100 meters.
Yeah, and then everyone passes him after the first 100 meters.
That's cool. If he makes it past the bridge, then I'm done, guys. I'm spent. I'm going home. God, you love people, right? You gotta love people.
So,
I don't love people.
I'm proud of our team for getting into it, for qualifying and racing. So that's pretty fun.
That's right.
So,
That's
Necki,
awesome.
I'm going to ask you the question: how come you're so angry?
Oh, right. No, fair question, and I still am to some extent, I think. But ultimately, anger doesn't get you anywhere, and you have to work through it. But
okay, then why are you disappointed?
Yeah, no,
that's usually
watched,
the reason for being angry and something.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. There was disappointment involved. I watched again, or not all of it, but a big chunk of it last night. I watched The Big Short, which is as close to a documentary about 2008.
That's right.
As you will ever get. All right, and it was extremely well made, high production value, excellent acting, and whenever they departed from the truth for poetic license, they actually tell you, sort of breaking the fourth wall.
Really, I remember seeing it. Yeah. Like this is the dramatization. Yeah.
Correct. So again, I thought it was it's well made. Two things that it led me to think about, and then it led me to think about other things. But one, it's classified as a comedy drama. That's number one, comedy drama. Now, is there levity in it? Absolutely. Yeah, but it's not made up. It's not funny. And there's a really poignant scene where Brad Pitt, who plays a trader, and he's a chameleon in that thing. He doesn't look like Brad Pitt at all, but he plays a trader that helps two young junior traders or people that sort of independent to get a foot in the door with betting against essentially the American real estate market. So he helps them. He's in Vegas and helps them out, and they're happy when they land this big deal. When they convince people to sell them certain things that they wanted them to sell, they sort of do a bit of a victory dance, and Brad Pitt's character says, "Stop! Stop! Do you realize what you're doing?" And they go, "What do you mean?" "You're betting against the American economy. You're betting against the American people." They go, "Yes. If you're right and the housing market collapses, people will lose their jobs. People will lose their homes. For every percent," he says, I remember this number, "for every percent that unemployment goes up, 40,000 people die."
Wow.
40,000 people die.
And you're dancing.
For every percent. Yeah, for every percent unemployment goes up. And that sort of takes the wind out of their sails, right? But I want to make something very clear here. It's not a comedy. And I've done a lot of research into 2008 and what happened. And the explanations they give are exactly the same explanations I used to give before that movie came out.
Yeah.
They're right on the money as to what happened. They're 100% on the money. That's exactly. And if you think that's impossible, it can't possibly be this corrupt or fraudulent or insane. It is 100%. So that was the first thing, right? Number one. And number two, then I thought to myself, well, nobody has faced any consequences for 2008. No one meaningful. I know one guy went to jail for 2 years. It doesn't really matter, but no one has faced any consequences. In fact, the people that were responsible, they got even richer. For 2008. In the same vein as nobody faced any consequences for 2001. And don't start talking about the people that they prosecuted, whatever. I can't even remember their names, but but the people that were responsible for 2001 have not been brought to justice. They have not been brought to justice. And now we're looking at this cascading, I guess, manifestation of things that go terribly wrong for us, the people. But of course, they go very, very right for, well, the parasites. And the pattern that emerges, and has now emerged with two major catastrophic events, completely different in nature, but nonetheless extremely beneficial and profitable for the parasites, is that nobody's held to account.
That's right.
Nobody is held to account. Or Patsy.
Mm-hmm.
Or Patsy is held to account, or whatever, right? So this really upset me. Then I started thinking on it some more, right? And that's why we're sort of doing the show cycle at the moment as well, with the financial system, etc. But one thing I guarantee you all is this: it'll happen again. There will be another event and another event, and again, people will suffer, regular folk, and the parasites, they'll be going just fine. Thank you very much. In fact, I would argue this. That the events of 2019 and 2020, which dragged into 22, were in fact beneficial to the parasites by testing the population. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
by having the single largest, experiment on the human race that was ever carried out, conducted over the 2 years when this was happening. The single largest.
Mm-hmm.
Right, without any parachutes or safety valves or anything like that, right? And not only that, but being able to pretty much, well, make up any rules they wanted in that time.
That's
you can't
right.
do this, you can't go there, you got to stay home, you can't stay home.
Just whatever works.
Whatever.
Social
And
distancing, masks,
Yeah.
no mask, whatever.
Whatever.
Stay
Exactly.
in your houses.
That's actually probably the best example, Dave, because in Australia, I remember very clearly, and I just want to dwell on this for a second. Initially, don't wear masks. No, don't. No way.
And that's we know why. It was because they didn't have enough masks for the
Yeah.
medical
In
companies.
fact, if you wear a mask, that's going to make it worse. So, and then, wear masks. You should wear masks. You can wear masks, right?
Yeah.
And then, you must wear masks. You have to wear
That's
masks.
right.
Masks must be worn. And the messaging, of course, flip-flopped on this, right?
Yeah.
And it was the single greatest social experiment on the human race ever undertaken, both in the
In per capita.
actual,
and quantity.
but both in what was physically done to people,
Mm-hmm.
as well as psychological.
Oh, totally.
The single biggest effort ever. Nothing comes even close. Nothing. I mean, Goebbels would just, you see, his mind would explode. Just, what?
With happiness.
Bang! People do what? No! Bang! And this is the kicker now. And I mentioned Goebbels advisedly. And this is what's important here to understand. And that's why The Big Short is called a comedy drama. The bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. The more often it's repeated, the more truthful it will become. Okay? The bigger the lie, the more people believe it, the longer it is repeated, the more truthful it becomes. It's not that it all of a sudden becomes the truth, but it will be accepted as the truth.
That's
It
right.
is not the truth, but people go, oh, that must be the truth, it must be right? So, and that's why we haven't seen any consequences for 2001, 2008, or in fact 2019, 2020. We haven't. And you know what? We will not see any consequences. Now, certain quarters are making certain confessions, like as to, certain effects of certain things.
Yes.
Sorry to be
Without
cryptic.
saying anything in particular, yep.
No. I mean, and these confessions are out in the world. Here, this is what happened, and this is what also happened, and this is the consequence of what we did. And none of that was at all true. Not at all of that. No, that's complete nonsense. It reminded me when these things started happening, especially the distancing rules. It reminded me of a German train platform. Germans are pretty good at most things. I gotta say, I mean, they've got their stuff figured out. They're bureaucrats and such. It's running fairly smoothly. But once in a while, they have these massive brain farts, right? So on a train, I don't know if it's still true. I mean, I was in Germany last probably 12 years ago, but on a train platform, right, which is mostly it's sheltered but open air, but it's got like a roof on top of it, right? But it's mostly open air, right? On the train platform, I was surprised to find 3-4 meter diameter circles painted on the station platform floor.
Oh.
Right, so like there's enough for 5, 6, or 7 people to stand next to each other, comfortably,
sure.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, that's interesting. I had no idea what they were, right? Is this some kind of bullseye? Are we meant to land a helicopter there? I don't know. Maybe it's a stylized crop circle. No, I was wrong on all counts. It was the smoking area. So now you say, oh yeah, Mackie, of course, because they're at the end of each platform. Makes sense. You just put them at the end, right? Yeah, but no, they were right smack bang in the middle of the platform.
Oh.
Evenly spaced, not at the end, but throughout the length of the platform, because the smoke, of course, knows not to leave the circle.
It goes up. That's what it does.
It's a very smart smoke. It's German smoke.
It's never windy.
But that's exactly what is happening here with the distancing rules, right? Because tiny little creatures that live in your body that you can't see without a microscope, they'll follow all the rules. Oh, geez,
they do.
This guy's 2 meters away from me. Oh, I can't go there. It's too
You'd be
far.
surprised.
I know the rules. I abide by those rules. No, but I got really upset. And unfairly, I was carrying my anger with me all day, and not anyone specific. I was just upset at the situation we find ourselves in, which doesn't seem to have an end inside. There's no end. I don't see a great movement of people demanding something or saying, hey, this far, no further. Occupy Wall Street, while it lasted for a while, this is no longer. Most protest movements that had many people interested in, like Black Lives Matter, for example, right? Where millions of people marched. That's sort of finished. And the only people that are still protesting, they have their little embassies in front of the White House or in Canberra or wherever the government building might be that allows these kinds of things, they stay there forever. Like they have little tents set up and they're protesting whatever they're protesting forever. That is conviction. That kind of conviction doesn't seem to exist anymore. You see? Now we always wonder what happened prior to World War I, right? And then what happened prior to World War II. Now, what happened prior to World War I was the end of empire, and there's some death throes, etc., etc. But then World War I happened, and the empires broke up, and people they go, well, we need something else. We need a new way. The old paradigm is gone, for the most part, right? And they found that new way in ideologies, because empires were dead, right? Some empires, hung on a bit and tried to, come out of the ashes. But for the most part, people started clinging to ideologies, because the empires and religion as well had proven to be unsatisfactory. And the ideologies that people found most comfort in were the ones that were extremely opposed to the center. Doesn't matter which direction from the center, as long as they're opposed to the center. Right? Could be left or right, and that's obviously completely arbitrary directions, but usually, ultra-nationalist, maybe even with racist twinges, or ultra-socialist, ultra-communist, again, maybe with, racist twinges, or certainly classist twinges, right? And that's what worked, and that's how we got to World War II, ideologies. Right? And it made sense, and people really got involved, and they cared, and they were upset, and they were angry, and they go, what happened to the world? I mean, look at World War I. Then the Great Depression came, right, in the 20s. Great Depression, the whole world economy collapsed. Stock market collapsed.
Yeah, that's right.
The Dust Bowl. Remember the Dust Bowl in the United States?
Yeah, it was bad farming practice.
Oh, yeah, well, whatever it was certainly enough to put paid to the American dream, such as it was.
That's exactly right. See, what they did was they tilled they tilled in a way the soil that actually didn't keep the roots alive. So by turning it upside down, and it dried out, and it just blew away. Yeah. And we're doing the same thing today to the Amazon. We have this amazing earth that we have no idea how to make. That's
the black earth, right?
Yeah,
we have no idea how to make it, but it's like 6 feet deep, and again, Dave and I have maintained for the longest time that the entire Amazon basin was a gigantic park.
That's right.
Cultivated, not just a park, but I think also a place where people lived, etc., etc. But it was must have been astonishingly beautiful at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And the buildings they're sprawling buildings and causeways and all kinds of, essentially an amazing, megalopolis, amazing, like a mega city in the Amazon basin. But so people, but they had passion because they hadn't yet been indoctrinated with what we have not been indoctrinated with. Decades of, and there's a number of things here. So decades of bad education, decades of malnutrition, and I mean malnutrition, okay? Eating all the wrong things with all the different... You should never eat anything with a number in it. Just free advice.
That's
Don't
good
eat anything
advice
with a
right
number in
there.
it. Okay? So malnutrition, an addiction to all kinds of drugs on the spectrum. Forget cigarettes and alcohol for a second, right? I'm talking about massive opioid addiction, medical opioids. I'm not talking about heroin, excuse me. I'm not even talking about cocaine. I'm talking about medically prescribed painkillers. And an entire generation of middle class, not just Americans, but middle class Westerners, if you want to call them, is lost to this addiction, right?
This is like our
then,
opium wars time.
Yeah, exactly. Then the over-medication of our children. Oh, your child is running around. He's 8 years old. What do you expect him to do? Of course he's running around. Oh, he's disruptive from class. Give him some focusing.
Focusing, yeah, that's right.
Of course, it's riddled in the real world, but
yeah.
You know what I mean. And then the slow but extremely dangerous addiction that sort of crept up on us. We weren't even aware of it because we didn't think it could be a thing because it's new.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the addiction to our devices, and not just to our devices, but to social media and social content and social acceptance.
So social acceptance through posting something and waiting until someone likes it. Feeling disappointed that no one has. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It does actually. This is scientifically evidenced. It does show all the hallmarks of true addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You are addicted to it, and it's... I thought gaming was bad because I had many a night where I would just game through playing Diablo 3, etc., etc.
Until the birds started chirping.
But I was never hanging for anyone. And I wasn't the generation that took a picture of every meal that I ate. But that's the thing now, right? And people, people making millions and millions of dollars just being influencers, whatever that means, and that we never saw coming, really, right? And that's another way to keep us docile. Because it does, over time, Dave, and this is the thing, right? And I'll give you an example of the opposite. Over time, it will alter our brain chemistry and our brainwave function.
It's already happened.
It will.
Yeah.
It's already happening, 100%. Because we know for a fact that we can do that. We know it because we studied Buddhist monks. And Buddhist monks that practice meditation, a lot, right? Several, 10, 12 hours a day. We know that their brainwave activity is fundamentally different to a regular person's.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. Right? So you know that you can do this. Now, and then on top of that, if that isn't enough, we created a culture of fear and uncertainty. Right? Because fear is one thing. If you're afraid of something, usually there's a course of action. You can run, you can fight, whatever. But uncertainty, what do you do there? The war on terror. You can't have a war on something abstract.
That's right.
It's like having war on weather. There's now war on weather. Yeah? War on drugs. War on terror. They're meaningless phrases, but they're very captivating, Dave, aren't they? They're evocative. Ooh, war on terror. Yeah, I don't like terror.
I don't want any more of that terror.
Yeah, no more terror. And I said this before, Phobos and Deimos, fear and terror, are the names of Mars's moons.
Yeah.
It's a concept. If you said war on terrorism,
That's
that would
real.
make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Equally impossible, but it would make more sense.
Yeah.
It really would, right? Because terrorism is an action. But terror is just a state of being. I'm in terror, right? Terrorism, war on, but it doesn't roll off the tongue. War on terrorism.
What about that? That 1940s or 50s horror movie where the actress was only cast because she could scream well.
Yeah, scantily clad and screaming well.
Right? So, so that's what are we at war against that? No. It's
It's
real.
actually insanity.
It is.
It's crazy. And now, the latest thing which I find, and like I look at 1984, the novel, and I think you don't even know the half of it. I'm thinking to myself, right? You wrote a good book, but you don't even know. We have now got different kind of truths. We've got different kinds of truths, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has their own truth. The truth as a concept no longer exists. It depends on your point of view. Wow, really? Wow, that's something else. But that's
literally and figuratively, Mickey. They became the same word. So maybe truth and lie.
Yeah.
Maybe truth and lie become the same word.
100%. It's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful
to behold, because I mean the thing is to do all of this as effectively as it has been done, and it's been done to us.
That's
then
right.
you got to take your head up and go, wow, I mean, well done you parasites, you've done a good job. Now I know that our listeners here on this station and stations similar to this, or maybe magazine consumers of similar content, are aware of most of these things.
That's right.
But you really have to line it up all together. And I'm sure I've missed a few things here, which will come to me later. But you have to understand what's happening in totality. In and of themselves, each of the things I mentioned, you go, oh, well, that's just what happens. Right? I mean, these things happen as you progress, as the human race progresses, as civilization does different things. Then this will happen, that's okay. But you have to take it in total. You look at the totality of what's been happening and how it's been happening and where we are today to understand just how, I can't use the word on radio, beep we are.
That's right.
Just to understand how beep we are. Self-censorship right there. Self-censorship. Because it is astounding. And again, I come back to my initial point that The Big Short is a comedy drama. If you think it's a comedy drama, you've been asleep for the last 50 years. We're talking about millions of people that lost their homes, millions of people that lost their jobs, and the people that were responsible for that made money hand over fist. And one person saw jail time for it. One person that wasn't even a major player. Honestly, not even a footnote in this whole thing.
Scapegoat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, and the same thing happened in 2001, 2008, 2019. This is now a theme. They know now. Sorry, they feel that they can do whatever they like. Yeah, let's get the jingle. They feel they can do whatever they like. They feel very secure in the knowledge
They
that
can.
nothing's going to happen to them. It'll be fine. They're not going to do anything. What?
So Mackie, I sent you I sent you a lot of stuff, but I sent you a video.
Yes, you did.
I do.
That's the truth.
That's the truth right there. Ain't no lying. All right, so I sent through a video, and it was just the discussion since COVID. What has happened to our banking system? Now, granted, the focus was in the US, and I get it. We're really no different to the US, except for our banks make a great deal more money for some reason than the banks in the US, even though we only have 1/10 or less than 1/10 of the population. And 4 big banks, they make more money collectively than the biggest 4 banks in the US. Yeah, which is crazy. That shouldn't be the case, right? But they do. Anyway, so the story that I've been following has been around the banks that during COVID required some assistance. I'm going to put it nicely. Resuscitation was the word I was really looking for, but they required some assistance to get themselves through because of the difficulties that people were facing around, just paying their mortgages. And so a lot of people were folding, and a lot of that debt became unanswerable debt. And they had to wear it. Because in America, you can just mail your keys back to the bank. That's their problem now, right? That's the agreement.
Yeah.
If that were everywhere in the world, that would be fantastic, right? But it isn't. So the banks that were then being coached into requesting help in a particular way so they wouldn't have bank runs were being assisted in two ways. Number one, set up to sell, to be taken over by another bank. Or the other was, you advise, you need to have more resources because, you've got to have enough money. If people start getting scared, you could be able to give them the money in cash, blah, blah, blah. We've talked about this as fractional reserve lending as the problem here. And now the host openly admitted, and he's a host that I've followed for such a long time when he was on television, and now he's just doing YouTube because his voice and opinion became too loud for the station he was working for.
Oh, really?
And that happens to a lot of hosts. Tucker Carlson, for instance.
Oh, okay.
But this isn't Tucker that I'm talking about. It's another fellow.
Right.
And he was saying that, and he had a guest on, and he was saying, yeah, they're down to zero now. They don't have to have any reserves. And the person's like, what? No, real. For real. Now, we've been saying this for years, and it's funny that we've been saying it. Now I'm seeing our messaging going out there, and other major people are talking about it, where they weren't. They were hiding behind the truth that they were being told to tell everybody. And now that these people have broken free of the truth owners in those particular places, the real truth is coming out, which is fantastic. And they've got huge followings now. I just love it. I love what's happening. But he was talking about the number of banks that had their lifeline. There was no bail in, and what allowed them to not entirely fold was they just got taken over by the banks. They put their hands up, and now the banks came in and enveloped them, right? So many banks it's happening to. Now, his next phrase out of his mouth after he finished saying that was, you wait till it's a digital currency. And his guest goes, they just type numbers in to the...
Yeah.
And that's what we've been saying this whole time. When it's digital, it doesn't affect the economy by just typing numbers in and sending people money, adding money to their account. No one would ever know. It's irrelevant at that point. So what they were saying on their show, which is really interesting, was that that you'll end up giving all your assets away to the government, that the government will start to roll over entities and take them on board themselves.
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't matter what they do in those accounts.
Yeah.
And who they give the money to. And if you give your assets across to the government, you can get universal basic income.
That's what we're all waiting for. Ka-ching!
Like you're telling me. I got my hand up. It's like, me, over here. I'm here. I'll be a guinea pig. Just start me on it.
I like the money. I love the money. Over here.
Over here.
I like the candy too.
So what was that? I saw a funny meme about the candy, and it was just remember that the creepy guy in the park offering candy must have more in the van.
Just wait here. Okay, she come with me. Help me carry it from there. Okay.
No, you just go up to the creepy guy giving out the lollies and go, I'm sure there's more in the van, let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Come on. What?
Now.
What?
Now.
Okay. Sounds like a good idea.
Are you wearing a wire?
Oh, that's gold.
Yeah,
It's right though.
so that's what I was. The only thing that was new in that statement was that the government would be taking over the bank. Now, I'm not sure whether that's correct, because I'm not sure that's what's going to happen. I think the government, without having to take the bank over or take it on as its own entity, like as the people's banks or people's mining or whatever, right? I don't think it's going to happen. I think more so the bank would just be allowed, once digital currency is in place, maybe it has a form to fill in, or there's complete transparency that everyone knows what's going on. I don't know.
See, I don't share your optimism.
Optimism.
I tell you why. Two simple reasons. Right? Number one,
All right.
do you remember when the Diebold machines came out?
I remember those fantastic things with the voting.
That's right. So a Diebold machine was essentially a computer terminal that would let you vote.
Mm.
And it would tally up the votes and would spit out a result. Right? Now, the wonderful thing here is that there was no paper trail. So the only source of truth was the database in the Diebold machine itself. Now, what it means is there was no outside or unconnected check or balance there. So what I mean by that is, let's say you voted for Democrat, for argument's sake. Well, it doesn't really matter, right?
Sure.
And there's like 1,000 people that voted for Democrat, but the machine said you voted Republican. And what the machine will then capture in its database is that you voted Republican.
That's right.
Okay? And you know what? There is no way on this good green earth to ever find out what the truth is, because as far as the database is concerned, by whatever...
That's what the machine says.
By whatever tomfoolery or hacking codes or whatever, it says you voted Republican. So there's no paper trail, right? There's no physical chit, no hanging chit, nothing.
Right. That's right.
And then secondly, what Bitcoin is the first one, I guess, introduced, was the first meaningful, in my opinion, application of blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
Now, blockchain, for most people, is a book with 7 seals. Think of it as a ledger that is immutable. It's a ledger you cannot change. And the ledger is accessible to all those who have the right key to look at it. So essentially all the people that should be able to look at it. Right?
It's like the docket that you get at the grocery store when you purchase something. It has everything. It's got a date, it's got a transaction number, it's got everything you purchased, blah, 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 and here's how much you paid, right?
Correct. Now,
Go on.
I think, this is what I think. I think blockchain put a massive onion in the ointment for the banks by introducing blockchain into this technology, because it made it almost foolproof. I'm not saying it's foolproof, but it's pretty hard to get in and manipulate it. So I don't think the banks, I'll be honest with you, I don't think the banks would have used as rigorous a system as blockchain to do what they want to do.
No, you're right.
Okay, now, and I would further predict that in the future, right, they will use something they will call blockchain. They will call it blockchain. It's blockchain. Really?
Yeah.
No, it's not. But yes, it is. Which will allow them to do exactly what they first said they want to do, which is just put more zeros into their accounts. Because ultimately, it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't actually matter. And I'll tell you why it doesn't matter. Because it's not physical currency. You can hold as much currency as you want. The problem only starts becoming a problem when that currency enters the marketplace. Okay? So you can have a gazillion dollars in the bank or somewhere, wherever, it doesn't really matter. If that sits there, it doesn't affect the economy at all. Nothing happens. As soon as the money, or be it physical or virtual, enters the economy, that's when things start to happen, such as inflation, etc., etc. And so there's nothing at all stopping the banks from doing exactly that, just adding more zeros. And I know this will happen. Why? How could Mackey be so sure that this level
Mr.
of
Crystal
corruption and fraud is possible? Because it happened.
That's right.
It's already happened in that's exactly what happened in 2008. They knew that the financial instruments they created, which were bundling up mortgages, right, essentially just consisted of poo. They knew that. And the rating agencies, because they didn't want to lose the business from banks, they said, no, AAA rated. Yeah, 95
That's
poo,
all
but
good.
AAA poo.
Yeah.
And
That's some
it
good
was-
poo.
And the thing is this, and I think people don't really understand this. The fraud committed
Mm-hmm.
is of such a magnitude that it boggles the mind. It's very hard to get your head around that, because everybody was in on it, right? Everybody, or they were too dumb to understand it. Now, neither of those things is good. If you're in on it, and at least you're smart enough to take advantage of it, right? But
Mhm.
if you're too dumb, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Greenspan, here, if you're too dumb to understand what is happening, and nobody ever looked, Dave, nobody ever looked. They go, oh, yeah, that's fine. That's just, and they're getting massive commissions from selling mortgages.
That's
Massive
right.
commissions.
Mm-hmm.
Can they afford it? Like, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
I'm getting a huge commission.
Woohoo.
And that, Dave, to go full circle, is why I think it'll happen again, because it has happened already, and it worked. And the reason why it will happen again is because nobody was held to account.
And
Nobody.
no, that's right. Hey, I'm going to tell you why blockchain isn't a tremendous thing for transactional spending. That means, small spends here and there using like a credit card kind of thing that you tap on something and then you can just use your Bitcoin, because it takes more than 20 minutes to process that payment through the blockchain. It's so large. I mean, it's insane.
Wow. Okay.
The blockchain itself grows with every transaction, and so it's a perpetual receipt for every single Bitcoin in the entire system. That way, everyone knows, whoever's got a copy, where your transaction is. Everyone has a copy of that. You can see it all, although your name is just code, but it doesn't matter. It's there. And that's why no one can find the originator of Bitcoin, because it's also code. And no one's ever going to know who it was. Anyway, so to make a transactional Bitcoin, they were thinking about having a wallet that you have, say, some kind of limit in. Like, if you have a bank account, you don't want all of your money to drain out of your account instantaneously at a one purchase. So you might have, a $5,000 limit or something. So if you wanted to have a Bitcoin spending tool, you might have something set up in the future where you can have a $5,000 pool of your Bitcoin resource to then tap as you go spend. But each time you do that, it takes 20 minutes to go and spend that money, to be honest, because you've got to transfer it to the person you've just given it to. That's all you're really doing, is giving money to someone else. Like we would cash, but cash doesn't have an angry accountant standing there making the ledger on a computer or even writing it down. This is why it's a complete pain in the butt. So temporary money, Meki. Temporary money under universal basic income would fit this rule so well, where you've only got blockchain on a very short-lived currency that then couldn't have a blockchain so long as to be annoyingly unusable. You could spend it straight away. Just like in Australia when we had those gifts from the government to go and spend money at a restaurant or something, or go and stay in the regional areas of Australia.
Yeah.
It would expire. So my thought is you won't be saving universal basic income. You'll be spending it because it'll have an expiry date. And that's the only way to get through as a transition from here, where we are, to being in total servitude under a new system of not new currency, but a new way of life without completely dismantling the entire civilization we have.
Thank you for that segue. I actually think we need to hit the reset button. I really think we need to start with something else.
Does it have the word great on it? Because I think we're getting there.
So the unfortunate thing here, and what Dave is alluding to, is that if that were to happen, then the wrong people would be making all the decisions and pushing us in all the wrong directions. And I give you a simple example of why it is the wrong thing. Do you remember that project in Saudi Arabia? This great long wall.
Yeah,
it was meant to be like a city.
Fantastic. That was going to be 160 kilometers long. Yep, 100 miles long. Yeah.
So let's just say that's been abandoned. Let's just go say that.
Because they're building a building now, though.
Yeah, much smaller in scale and more feasible.
One
but
segment.
My point, one segment is that. But my point is this. Right? I mean, the idea was, let's build this amazing thing, and it was like a blueprint on how the world would look for most of us. We would all be living in fairly contained spaces, leaving the rest of the world open for the parasites to frolic.
Yeah, frolic about naked.
Yeah. Now that didn't work out because, of course, the complete project was a nonsense to begin with. I mean, we just haven't got the. Simple thing here. The glass alone that would have been required for the building doesn't exist. Okay, there's not enough sand, considering all the other production or all the other construction rather that is going on in the world. There's not enough glass. Yeah. Oh, steel. Yeah. I mean, any of the raw materials. Unless you cannibalize existing cities and tear them down, this just doesn't exist.
I know where there's a lot of rubble right now.
Too soon. But the Great Reset and any attempt to restructure society would meet with the same fate. I've been part of many projects in my career, right? And you know which projects succeed? The ones that are well planned and scoped right. Those are the ones that succeed, right? If you're reaching for the stars, giving unrealistic timelines, no budget, and no resources, chances are it's not going to happen. Okay? I'm just putting it out there. It's not going to go well for you. But this is the same, the Great Reset. I mean, the Great Reset could be brought about by a massive catastrophe, a massive economic collapse, a massive aftermath, the aftermath rather of a massive war. I mean, all of those things could conceivably change the landscape, like they have after World War One.
That's right.
It was the end of empires, right? After World War II, it was a completely new world order. Like Soviet Union and USA, USSR, USA. It was like what? Who are they? France and Great Britain dwindled away. Germany had well and truly been defeated.
Europe was heading to be the new world power.
Yeah.
Europe. Yeah. Under one ownership, but still, granted, it was, at the time, a remarkable place with art. You can tell a civilization by its art.
Yes.
How successful it is. It had the most of it.
But it was USA and USSR. That's who emerged triumphant, And then the people always think, we are living in remarkably stable times. We are.
Sorry, what?
I mean,
I feel like I've slid out to the middle of a thinning ice lake.
Yeah, well,
that's what it feels like
I'm
for
hearing
me.
the Kraken. I'm hearing the Kraken too. But Dave is right. It is coming to an end, this stability, and we're seeing it by. Usually, stability ends, or it's ending when military expenditure goes up, and the laws change to conscription, etc., or steps are being taken to.
All happening now.
And it's happening everywhere, everywhere. It's just. What?
Russian nuclear vessels in Cuba. Yeah, it's pretty close.
Oh yeah, well, yes. What is this? What Kennedy and what and no? And they keep hey, what you do? No, it's really quite astounding. But we don't have the same rational players we had back then, unfortunately. Khrushchev and Kennedy were rational players, right? Especially Khrushchev. And nobody wanted a nuclear war. I can't say the same for any potential president coming up in November. I don't know who's going to come up, but neither of them is a rational player. And I don't think Putin is a rational player. So
I don't think there's an AI smart enough yet in a robot's body to be able to take over the lead yet.
Yeah, I agree.
That may be 4 years.
Oh yeah, who knows?
If we're still
maybe
about.
the next election. I am cousin of Kodos. Just vote for me. But it is certainly coming. The stability, this era is coming down. And my point really is that most of us don't know anything else.
Yeah.
We're born into a USSR kind of dichotomy, and it's changing, of course. I mean, the USA was the single great power for a long time, but now Russia is trying to challenge it. China is trying to challenge it. But by and all, we understand the system because America hasn't really budged from its position in many ways, right? So we still understand the fundamental basis for our existence. But that's only temporary. It's only temporary, guys, because nothing lasts forever. I mean, even the Roman Empire, which we could argue lasted for 1,000 years, the Ottoman Empire, I'll give it, or what do we say, let's call it 800 years, or probably 600 more like it, right? 600 years for the Ottoman Empire. 600 years. It's a long time, gone. Persian Empire, several hundred years, gone. Babylonian Empire, gone. Okay? All these empires that existed, all these structures, the Greek city-states for the better part of 1,000 years, gone. Right? Not the city-state, like not the cities, but the structures of the city-states, right? The way it existed, gone, completely gone. The holy Roman Empire of German nations, founded by Charles the Great, gone. It's all of these constructs. The British Empire, which lasted, let's call it, to be generous, 400 years. That's how long it lasted, right? And now there's still remnants in the Commonwealth, but it's pretty much gone, that empire. And here we are, barely. Oh, what is that? Yeah, actually, it is 80 years since D-Day. Barely 80 years out of the war, and we think this thing is going to last forever? No. And like I said, when things go sideways, they will go sideways very, very fast.
That's absolutely what happens. So I'm predicting that if you're interested in long-term food storage, that you pursue that hobby while it's available. Because, if anything, all you've done is bought food. There you go. You don't have to feel like you've done something wrong. You don't be persecuted. You're not really being a prepper. That's not it. You're just going, you know what? I'm ready. I'm ready for stuff to happen. And that's fine. And that's the way it should be. If you live so that every other day you've got to go to the local store to buy something, you're not doing what our grandparents knew to do. My grandmother said she would go to the store like once a month or something like that. Just once a month. And only buy what she really needed and come home. So, are we doing that? No. Do we? I just think that there's certainly some scope for improvement. Let's put it that way. I'm going to be nice. Because the music's starting, and that's the end of the first hour of David Mackey Shiny Side Out. That's the news section. Coming up next is us again, but we're going to be talking about the parasitic system, fiat currency, and fractional reserve lending, part 8. It's time for a quick break, and on the other side of that, we'll be back. All right. Oh, if you're watching this on YouTube, do like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you shortly on a new